So let's consider one big blue ball and assume that I'm moving these two balls. Well, this is some basic definition of what nuclear fission stands for. In scientific terms, we define nuclear fission as splitting of atoms into two smaller nuclei. And by this, it is quite obvious that I love science. In fact, I do love science. I'm a big fan of science, and I love spending time reading Stephen Hawking's books or any other book and watching amazing science documentaries on YouTube. But the main question is as to what prompted me to come over here and talk about specifically nuclear energy. Out of all the topics, all the problems, why nuclear energy? So it all began when I was reading this brilliant book. And I came across a statement from Stephen Hawking himself that he regards it nuclear confrontation which will cripple Earth. So this is the exact same point where my curiosity led me to Google. And I started searching information on nuclear radiation, impacts, disadvantages and advantages. And this is the best part. While I was skimming through information, I came across this research conducted by National Academy of Sciences. They concluded that despite of being environmental free and pollution free, nuclear energy is also one of the reasons to the pollution, and that it contributes 5% to the industrial waste. Now honestly speaking, this 5% struck me as a really tiny digit. I mean, it is a small number, isn't it? 5%. But then I realized that it was not just me, but it's everyone, every single of you sitting in the room. It's in human nature. We do not consider small numbers. We always consider big numbers, be it 95%, 97%, or maybe more than that. But the reason why we're neglecting this 5% is because we don't know the impacts. We don't know the effects of radiation. We don't know what radiation can do to ecosystems and human lives. So this is the reason why I took this statement. Nuclear is a carcinogen. It needs to be dealt irrationally. We need constant Chernobyl reminders. You can in fact see these three questions right under the arrows. What makes it carcinogen? What is Chernobyl? Third, why do we need constant reminders? Now before I begin with answering my first question, I need you all to keep 3 pointers in your head. First, you cannot see radiation. Second, you cannot smell radiation. Third, you cannot feel radiation. So it's just like oxygen combining with your hemoglobin, forming oxyhemoglobin. In a similar way, when radiation enters into your body, it binds with your cells. It binds with your cells, your DNA and your genes. So it alters with the structure, it makes changes, and we call these changes in scientific terms as mutation, chromosome mutation or gene mutations. And these cool names lead to really dangerous diseases in human bodies. Albinism, Down syndrome, and sickle cell anemia. And it not only affects human lives, but it also affects ecosystems, animals. I mean, name any animal. Sharks, whale, ghosts, every living species is affected by radiation. And this is the exact thing that happened back in Chernobyl. A flawed engineered nuclear reactor number 4, a human mistake, exploded out of nowhere, out of the blue, and it killed 37 people. Now 37 people is not a small number. 37 people, that means 37 deaths, 37 lives, and that was not just the end of it. The government had to evacuate the entire city. 4,000 people were evacuated from the city. They had to leave their homes, out of which 200 people were still expected to die. This catastrophic event was supposed to be a reminder. Let me show you some images from Chernobyl, what exactly Chernobyl caused to that city. The building, the industry where the reactor was situated collapsed completely. You can see the images over here. And it also affected ecosystems. It affected the ocean, etc. This was supposed, as I said, this was supposed to be a reminder, but unfortunately, we nuclear power countries are still dumping these nuclear toxins into oceans, into these sea channels. And these sea channels are not ordinary sea channels where you will go for picnic on your boats. In fact, these sea channels are known as nuclear waste streams, and that is to say 67% to 71% of nuclear toxin is present in these channels, and no living species can survive in this. I can guarantee you that no living species can survive in these waters. This has already contaminated half of the ocean, especially Pacific Ocean, followed by another nuclear meltdown that happened back in 2011, Fukushima. It was an incident that happened in 2011 in Japan, and there are leaks that is also polluting the half of the Pacific Ocean. And this all leads back to mutation, diseases, death of ecosystem, death of plants, death of everyone. We all are affected by radiation. Now, as I'm coming to the end, I will not end my talk with now and ever quote. In fact, this was a formal part of my talk. The latter part comes with me telling you that this was just the one thing that I mentioned over here, nuclear pollution. We are responsible for many other things, be it water pollution or air pollution. I mean, we can all name it. We have studied geography in 10th grade. But the main point over here is that it is our responsibility to keep Earth safe, to keep Earth clean, because it is our Earth, it is our planet, it is our home. And sooner or later, if we do not take care of this planet, it will be a dead zone, and none of us will be able to survive. So for the sake of humanity, let's all be a part of the solution and not part of the pollution.